be prepared for that, and I urge you to turn on your camera if you can when we get there. Okay. All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining, everybody, and welcome to the second session of How to Be a Super Connector. My name is Mac Mayer. I'm the event director for Kettlespace. A bit about Kettlespace. We're a real estate technology company based in New York City, a network of inspiring workspaces, and a passion for community development. Since the pandemic, we've partnered with organizations to help bring people back to work safely with a variety of flexible workspace options. Our goal has always been to support, empower, and connect our community, and why we're committed to producing these awesome weekly events. Just a bit more of housekeeping. We are recording, so just keep that in mind. And then as we go along, just feel free to drop questions in the chat, and we'll pause momentarily throughout to answer them. I'm really excited to introduce you all to a member of our community and our host for today, Michael Brathwaite. He is a founder of the New York region of Business Networking International, BNI. So BNI is the largest networking company in the world. He and Michael has served as the executive director of the Manhattan region, which encompasses 55 chapters, making it BNI's largest and most successful urban region. He's also the vice president with the Urban Markets Group at Morgan Stanley. And fun fact, he used to, we were just talking about this, be a radio host for a radio show called Money Talk. Do you remember the music for Money Talk, the intro music?
Yeah, it was Chuck Mangione. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the show was on the air for about 20 plus years. I did the show for about 8 years. That was pretty cool. We were just talking before about the hot mic thing, right? So I guess Zoom now there's equally chance of hot mics, right?
Yes, we are recording. So yeah, check yourself. Okay. Well, thanks for joining, Mike. And I guess we'll just jump right into it. So last time we started kind of talking about this concept of superpowers, of being able to find and identify your superpower as a way to figure out how you can help others. I was interested to hear from you, like what your superpower was, and maybe how people can identify what that is.
That's a good starting point. Yeah, certainly I'd say my superpower is my ability to create relationships and really help people understand who they are, right? And I always say I'm the mirror. Most people, we go out into the world, we tell a story, we do our jobs, we interact with people, but we never actually know how the world perceives us. And I always say you can't see yourself other than the reflection of others. And so I tend to be the great mirror for people, right? When they're trying to accomplish something or they're trying to figure out something, I give them that perspective, right? Of what the world is seeing of them, right? And in many cases, most of us, it's unidentified, right? And we all have a superpower. Matter of fact, Steve Harvey once said, we all have unique talents, right? And how you know it's a unique talent, it's something that comes easy to you that's more difficult for others. Right. But we take it for granted because it is easy for us, right? And what I let people know is, hey, you know what that you're doing, that way you interact with people, or that way that you analyze that situation, or that way that you are naturally a helping person. That's your superpower, right? And understand it, appreciate it, and leverage it. Right. And because the more you do what you're good at, and I do a lot of part of what I do financial literacy. I go around, I talk to young children about money and understanding how markets work. But I'm also trying to educate them on how I got where I am because of the things I was good at. And then for them to start to identify what they're good at. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for most of us in life. Some people go through life not thinking they're good at anything. Or the greater challenge is you're good at a lot of things. Right, right, and that's the become the jack of all trades and the master of none, right? And so then so part of this is trying to identify what you enjoy what brings you joy, and then just follow that dream, right? And that will lead you to your success in business. And so a lot of what I'm doing is giving the inspiration and helping them see themselves.
Excellent. Yes, you've got a great Zoom presence, so that is also a great superpower, and I think probably helps you have these kind of conversations when you're networking. Being very personable.
Yeah, it's a gift. I mean, it's funny. I was a shy, introverted kid. Like around my friends, I was not the talker. And it's so when my friends realized I did a radio show, I do a lot of presentations, and I've spoken in front of over 1,000 people, and people are like shocked because I'm the quiet one. And,
oh, wow.
but the introverts become the super extroverts if they put themselves in that position. So I'm actually more comfortable being on stage than being in a crowd.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
Right. So knowing myself, right. And so it took some time, and it was a gift, right? But I didn't discover it until I was in my mid-30s. So, like all those years before it, I was sitting in the corner, being a wallflower. And a matter of fact, part of why I changed was just survival. I realized sitting in the corner being a wallflower, I would starve to death, right? So it became, hey, I better do something, become different, right? And so I started to reinvent myself, and what I realized, it was always there. And so I think for many of us, we have to challenge ourselves and really think about what we are afraid to do. Maybe that's what we might be really good at, even though it's not comfortable. And and I remember, and this is really dating myself because I grew up a little bit on Johnny Carson, which maybe some of you have heard of out there, right? But the great irony,
familiar.
Never saw him though, but you heard the name, right?
Yeah.
But the irony was he was in front of almost everybody's bedroom at 11:30 at night across America, right? And we all knew Johnny Carson, and we all loved Johnny Carson. He didn't like talking to people. He was an introvert, right? He avoided people when he was off the show. But when he was on stage, he was this other person. So if he'd ever really pushed himself, he would have never been Johnny Carson, right? He would have been someone else we'd have never known.
Right. Okay. Well, in the spirit of that, I'd like to challenge this group. Throw in the chat what you think your superpower is. Take some time and just throw that in while I ask Mike this next question. So for the people on this call, once they identify their superpower, can you give advice or maybe some practical next steps for finding those folks who need that superpower? Is there a way you go about finding people who kind of need that help?
Well, certainly. I mean, again, the whole point is you're going to use it in all the circles you're in. Right. And so I think when we think about the mistake, and let's talk about the difference between network and relationship building, right? Because everybody knows about networking. We talk about it all the time. Obviously, or your organization and my organization build networking groups, right? And we talk about that. The challenge that most of us have, we think of it as the activity of going and networking. Right. And either you went to a meeting or you did something like this, you went on Zoom, or you were part of an organization, but it's not the activity of going there, it's the relationships you built. Right. And so what you're trying to find when you at these events is connecting with people that are like-minded like yourself, that you can now start to collaborate with and start to work with, because the networking doesn't get you the business. Right? The networking gets you the introduction. It's the relationships that happen over time that you develop those relationships that will ultimately lead to business. And I think our greatest challenges, and we talked about this the last time we were on a couple of weeks ago, the whole process, right, that we go through. Most of us think it should be a shorter process, right? I meet you today, you buy something from me tomorrow. That was a great interaction. Right. But is that realistic? How many times does it really happen? Unless you're in a retail situation and, someone walks into your store and wants what you're offering. But in most cases, you're trying to find those people that you have common interests with, you get along with, you enjoy, and then you will share of yourself with them. Right. And so you will give them what you have, and you'll put it inside them, and then they'll start to appreciate it. Right. And so you describe it as superpower, that becomes intangible, but it's really behavior and activities. And I always say, if we think about the best friends you have. It's the person you can call up and ask them anything, and they'll be glad to do it, right? But
Right.
why would they be glad to do it? Because of everything you've done for them. And matter of fact, I remember Dr. Meisner, the founder of BNI, he told a story once about a gentleman who had called him up and made an offer to him to help him with something, and it randomly, and for him being the head of this global organization worldwide, most times people are coming and asking for something, and he said, I want to do this for you. And I forget exactly what it was. Where it was, he was helping him, and for literally 2 years, that's all he did. He kept putting in and pouring in and pouring in to him. It was being very helpful. And he was like amazed. Wow, this guy's been really nice to me. This is so great. And one day he called up and he said, I have a favor to ask you. He said, what? Yeah, tell me what it is. Like, done. He didn't even know what the favor was. Right. But because he had already put so much in, unless, and he knew who he was, so he wasn't going to ask him to do something, that would be ridiculous, right? He already knew who he was as a person. He trusted his character. He had poured so much into him and invested in him that he was saying yes, basically, to no matter what he asked. And so I think that's the part that we have to think about as we develop these relationships, almost thinking about them as little plants, right? And you're watering those plants over time, which is that putting into them, you're nourishing them, you're fostering the relationship. And then over time, you will be able to come back when that is full bloom or fruits are now on the tree, and you can harvest those, and now you can take back because you've put in. And I think most people don't get that concept. And I think many of us think about, well, if I meet someone, what do I get from them, right? And if I get some from you, then I'll help you. But you have to reverse that. I will help you no matter what, because and again, and you pick your spots, right? You can't go around, unless you're Gandhi, right? You can't go around the world helping everybody all the time, right? But you are going to have to put yourself in front of people, and you are going to have to take the chance and help those. But it's going to be your instinct. I like this person. I trust this person. I believe in this person's character, and I can make a difference. See, that's the power, right? I know I can help you. And I've met people like that, where I look at them and I see what they're trying to do. I say, you know what? I know I can help you. And if I do that with no expectation, because part of this is thinking of the world as, it's going to be a circle anyway. So if I help you, it doesn't mean you're going to directly help me, but someone in the universe will. There'll be someone that's helping me. And if you listen to any celebrities, and as they tell their stories, they all talk about someone pulled them up, right? Someone gave them a hand along the way. They didn't get there on their own. And once they're there, and I think that's the other part we all make a mistake of as we reach out to these quote unquote influential people that are in our circles or powerful people, they're willing to help. But again, you have to have value, right? You have to approach them in the right way at the right time. And you have to show a passion for whatever the help is and show value to it. But you're not going to do it alone. Help others and understand others are going to help you. And that was probably my biggest mistake early on. I was a natural giver, but I never received back. I never looked for anything, right? And which is a good thing to start with. But I learned over time, you do have to still balance the scales. If you're always putting in, you're still creating an imbalance. Because at some point, you're going to be frustrated with never getting anything back. So you have to give, but then allow others to help you also. And at times people will ask you, they'll say, how can I help you? And then we say, well, no, that's okay. I don't need any help. That's not right.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I love that we keep coming back to this. Change your mindset from, networking is what can I get from you to what can I give? And in the chat, people are putting kind of their superpowers as empathy, connecting with people.
Yep.
Seems like no one, that idea of networking is trading business cards and looking for value for yourself first is kind of very dated. And it seems like people are looking for those connections. So on that topic of asking for help, you give a lot and give a lot. Is there a way, is there maybe practical steps that you take to start to ask for help from these connections, these relationships that you've built?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you're investing in them, you also have to be great at research. So you have to understand who their network is, who their circle is. And I think part of when you're giving so much, now you have permission to ask also. You've created the permission, right? It's not like I said, that gentleman I saw, Dr. Meisner, he created a situation he could say, do me a favor, right? Because he had created all that. So I think it's tactical. So I look at what profession someone is, I look at their circle of network, and I try to, and I'm also a good listener, right? And me, over the years, some of the biggest relationships I've developed were, and I'll give one classic example, but I can give you hundreds. I had a client of mine, so obviously I have a good relationship with him. And in the years before, we never really knew. We'd have a joint account, but you wouldn't know who the spouse was. No one, didn't matter. You had a husband and wife, two names on the account. You dealt with one person. You didn't really know who the second person was. It was a name on the account. And so I'm talking to the client. He says, "Oh, my wife just got a new job." And I said, "Oh, what's the job?" She's the CFO for 1199, which is a large union. And I said, "Oh, I'd love to meet her." Now, obviously, it's his husband and wife, right? So he could make that happen, right? And he's like, "I can do that." And actually, we did meet, and I ended up getting one of my largest accounts ever. But I've had many cases by just saying those simple words, "I would love to meet that person," right? Let them listen, right? And because people are always bragging about the people they know. Right? That's part of what we do, right? "Oh, my cousin does so and so. This one works here." We always love to name drop, right? Of the people we know. And so I'll wait and I'll think about, and then certainly I'll say, "Oh, I'd love to meet that person." And then the next part you have to be ready with, well, why would they want to meet you? Right. And then it's about something you can offer them, something that you know about them that can be of value, and you have confidence that if I met them, I know they would be very interested in this. And your confidence and your relationship allow that to develop.
So in that situation where you're meeting this gentleman's wife, and did you ask yourself, what can I ask yourself? Why would she want to meet me?
It was easy. Like I said, in finance, CFOs, right? They're always looking for solutions to where they're going to put their money, right? And looking for the better opportunity. And their jobs, what's great about professionals that manage money, their job is to listen to ideas, right? And so what ends up happening is, by being done through an introduction, there's some vetting involved. There's a relationship comes. So now they're going to listen open-minded. If you cold call someone, which I never was good at, but if you call a total stranger out of the blue, even if their job is to listen to people's ideas, they may not be so open, because who are you and where you coming from? Even though I heard very recently, I was listening to a podcast with Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban, actually, people pitch him all day long, and he listens. People send him emails, and he reads them all, and he'll call people up when the ones he finds interest. I found that really fascinating. He's a multi-billionaire, busy as we could all imagine, and he's still listening to random people's ideas. But then he'll call you. It's kind of, anybody's watched Shark Tank, and he'll say, "All right, I saw what you wrote me. What's the story here?" And and if you gotta be ready, right? If you could hit him with why this makes sense, then he says he sends it to his people. They'll do the vetting and they'll go through it. But there was a case of there is that possibility. But in general, when you're introduced to somebody, you've reduced their resistance, unless you're, I'm not that talented, so I need an introduction.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. So you found that person, and we talked, in the past about being direct, the importance, early on of being direct and managing the expectations for the relationship. Although, this kind of goes slightly against not having any expectations from the relationship, but there's a balance. Is there any advice you can give about those questions to ask of the relationship early on when it comes to is this person going to be able to give me referrals, or it's setting expectations for the relationship?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly as you go down the road. So it's not. So I think the initial is just introductory stuff. Background, interests, hobbies, networks, those type of things. So it's really surface stuff. But in
Right.
those conversations, you're trying to find common threads, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you will have things in common. I'll give you one of the craziest one, if I know people on the call will appreciate with. Anytime I meet someone that grew up in the Bronx, we have something in common.
There you go.
Right, automatically, right? That's like, that's a bond because of the culture that was existed in the Bronx and the personality and the fact that it was a little bit of survival, that's to get
Right.
through that. So that's one example, right? So you're looking for those threads of commonality, right? It could be the high school you went to, it could be the college you went to, it could be the sports, it could be theater, it could be movies, right? Music. So now you have something that you both are on the same plane. That's how you start the relationship. Now, as you're
Right.
going through, and I think critically, and then I'd say particularly in these times, is when this COVID environment, it's your follow up and your repetitiveness is going to be more critical, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to randomly meet people, and certainly randomly keep meeting people the same day. I mean, for those who commuted to work and the Metro North, literally there were people that were seeing the same people every morning. I catch the
Right.
7:40 train. I stand on this spot on the platform. You catch the same train. I see you every day. Over time, we start to chat, right? And I don't have to do anything. I know where you're going to be tomorrow at 7:40, right? Where now that's not happening more. The routine has been broken, right? Our only routine is on screen. And so now you have to be more planning it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so as you make those repetitive plans and you're going down the road, and you're listening to what the person say, then it's really asking them about the things that they believe in from a business point of view. What are they looking for? So you always start the conversation again with what do they need? What do
Right.
they want? Because also it's a fair expectation, right? People you're trying to network with may be looking for something from you. You can't offer them, right? They
Mm-hmm.
think you can, but when they describe it to you, oh, I'm looking for this, this, and this, and you're like, it's really not where I focus, right? And so honestly, and being upfront and saying that's not where I focus. I mean, I enjoy working with you. I'd love to figure out maybe there's a way we could work together. But if that's what you're looking for, I'm not sure I can deliver that, right? And vice versa. Then after you find out what they're looking for, then it gives you permission to basically say, this is what I'm looking for. And
Right.
is there a
Okay.
match? I'm not looking for it today, but in general, this is the people I work with, right? This is the market I focus on, and this is how I help that market. And then they'll either say, and then what that starts to do, and we talked about a couple of weeks ago, when we talked about the fact of they may already have existing relationships, you have no chance.
Right.
And
Right.
there are people that believe that way, that I have my circle, and there's a lovely circle, and that's my, I'll go out if I can get something, but my circle's here. If they're that
Right.
type of person, and if they're very close to that possibility, then why we can be friends. And I guess we've all heard that. We've all heard that at some point, right?
Sure.
We should just be friends, right? And that's okay.
Right.
To say we'll just have a cool. Then there's no expectation, and then if you like the person, we can hang out and have a good time, and that's hey, we need friends. Right. but I don't have to then wait around thinking I'm going to get business from all this effort. I can then put that effort somewhere else.
Exactly. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions about this area of like when to ask or how to ask about kind of and discovering synergies between you and a connection? Feel free to throw any questions in the chat or even hop on the mic. Just want to pause here because there's a lot of good info coming from Mike right now.
Hey, I've answered everything they thought about.
Yeah. Well,
don't be shy. Anita has something.
Yeah.
Yes, Anita.
I would love to ask a specific question that I don't know, maybe will help other people if you don't mind. So I teach yoga. I do a kind of therapeutic kind of yoga for folks recovering from injuries and other things. And I personally think that I am a great contact for like physical therapists, chiropractors. I don't want to frame it in a way that I want to take business away from you. I want to frame it in a way that I'm like added value for your tougher patients or somebody who wants to do something. And I'm really struggling with how to to approach people in that way of like, yes, I want referrals, but I want to present myself as like, you really want to know me. Your patients are going to thank you. That kind of thing.
Perfect. Well, I love that. That's a great question. Thank you, Anita. And I love your name. I'm very biased since my mother's name was Anita and my daughter's name's Anita. So,
Oh, wow.
So that's a special name to me. There's two things.
I just have to say, you're always connecting.
You're right. There you go.
Great.
Two things. One, I think from even your current patients, right, or clients, or how we've described them, and from your friends and associates, people in your circle, your family, get introductions to those who you want to meet. So again, so you're reducing the barrier, and basically you're telling your friend or whoever, hey, I'd like to meet. Oh, do you have a great chiropractor, if that's who it is, or a great PT person, that you use? If you hear someone has an injury, I'd love to talk to them. And then be candid with them. Say, I'd love to talk to you, and certainly, I think we can work together. I'd love to learn about your practice, right? Because there are times where I have patients that are in a severe chronic situation or something that an accident occurred and they need a very specific type of treatment, and you may be very helpful to that, and I think you want to build out your arsenal of the chiropractor, of the and then what you do is you offer them a free session. Let me bring you in so you can experience how I work and what I do, and then they'll understand it better, right? And then they'll realize that it's really not competitive. I always say your greatest competition is also your greatest ally. Because all the conversations that they're having all day long, or people that are in a certain need that's focused around the thing you're also serving, right? It's a subset, right, of those things. And so you're trying to look at the whole lineage of the human body and say, okay, what are the possible things that people will go to work on their body, and then figure out where I fit into that, right? And then try to fill that out. So you have a chiropractor, you have a PT person, you have even a podiatrist, you have medical people, right? And go to them also, because I think, and it's finding, again, those who have a true belief. We know in all of our professions, there's those who are doing it because it's a job and they get paid, and those who really care about the outcome of their patients, right? And their friends and their family. They want them to be healed. They want them to feel better. And so when you let them know where you fit into the puzzle, right? What you do has nothing to do with what PT does, right? Yeah, you're not gonna be able to help someone that, came out of surgery, right? Immediately. Eventually, yes, but that's not your specialty. And I think if once you define that for them and let them see it, because most people's instinct is to, to fight you because, wait a minute, it's the same person, right? But if you allow that guard to come down, then it's okay. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. We had in one of our groups, we had interior design person in the group, and we wanted to bring an architect in. And interior design says, no, I did the same thing. We compete with each other. And I'm like, well, I'm not an expert in this, but interior design and architect sound different, right? And so I said, why don't the two of you go out to lunch and talk about your practices and see how they can possibly fit together and where you can collaborate. Don't think about what you do the same, think about what you collaborate on. And it turns out they ended up letting the architect into the group. Within 3 to 6 months, they were doing joint newsletters and joint seminars because it really wasn't exactly the same. And then they actually saw the value, but it's educating people, right? And I think that's the expectation. Understand that people are already in a space, just because they're there, that's their belief, right? So don't be disappointed by that belief. Your job is to find those who are open to the possibility. So hopefully that helps. Okay.
I love that. And we got 2 thumbs up. Okay. So I do want to get to the breakout rooms. Gail, I saw your questions. I will get to that after the breakout room session, but I want to give you guys a chance to talk to each other. So the question I wanted to pose to the group was just, what's been kind of the most successful business relationship that you've found? And I want to see if we can draw out some key features from that, or key takeaways from, or learnings from that relationship. So I want everyone to, introduce themselves, share. We're going to take about 10, 12 minutes, and then maybe tell the story of that relationship and see if you can generate maybe a list of like the top 3 takeaways. I will put the question in the chat. Thank you, Jediah. And so I also want you to just pick a representative of your group to present once we come back. Just present the top kind of takeaways. So at this point, I will urge people to turn on their cameras or turn on their mics, because we do want you guys to participate. This is a networking event after all, so I think it's only right that we learn about each other. Okay, so I am going to open these rooms. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay, I'm just gonna look at the chat. All right, so I'm gonna. Okay, so I was thinking we could just go, group by group. We only had 3. Does one group want to share first on what they talked about and maybe some key takeaways they discovered? I might have to pick a name out of the participant list.
Yeah, pick it. They'll be fine.
Okay. Anita, was it you? Did they decide upon you? Were you the spokesperson?
It's going to be me.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, so shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'm Andy Austin, and our group, I think we all arrived pretty much at the same place. There had to be a connection. We had to develop some feeling of mutual interest. In Anita's case, there was a bonding over India and some common ideas. In my case, I apply empathy a lot to my relationships, and the people I work best with are people with whom I develop a bond. So that seems to be one of the key takeaways is developing that bond, and quick hit networking, unless you might decide you like someone and want to get to know them better. And in that case, you need to have that follow-up and see about building relationships. But relationships to me are what it's all about. And I think that was a common theme in our group.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Forming a bond is essential. Next group want to go? I see Gail. Oh, Gail, you're on mute.
You're right. I am on mute. Yeah, I don't know where the rest of my group are hiding somewhere, but anyway, we kind of had a conversation about shared value. There was somebody in the group that partnered with someone that he worked for in the past, and they came together and created this business. So they had shared values and shared skills. And then we also chatted about when you connect people together, if you are the connector, kind of letting go the expectation, like getting something in return or wanting something in return. So sometimes when you connect people, they go off and do great things together, and you're kind of left there going, but I connect you. So
Right.
How come I'm not invited to that lunch? Or, but you just do it, and you hope that, when you do have a project, you can call on them. So it's like, bless it and have no expectations and just keep connecting, because it's the right thing to do. And it's, good business to do that as well.
I love that. Mike, any impressions from?
Yeah, well, that twofold. Actually, both comments by Anita and Andy. I'm sorry, not Anita, Gail. But you're right. You have to just put it out there into the universe, and sometimes they're better fits. And ironically, my B&I partner, who I own the business with, a gentleman introduced us, and actually, we were all going out to play pool together, 3 of us. And it turned out after the first time we played, and the other guy who I worked with, he was okay, but I wasn't really friends with him. I turned out to be best friends with this third party, who now is my business partner for the last 25 years. And we kind of ditched the other gentleman, but it was, not intentional, but that happens. I think that, and that you see that in friendships, right? You'll have multiple friends, and all of a sudden 2 friends are like I said, they're best of friends, and they're going out and playing. You're like, really? You were with so-and-so? Yeah. So I think you got to understand, you will fit where you belong. And the challenge is, and I want to piggyback just a concept as I was thinking about this. Years ago, I was on the board of the Westchester Symphony. And it was like a great opportunity for me in my business. And these are uber wealthy people. I mean, they're like some of the richest people in the county were part of this organization. So I'm in the right circle with the wealthy people. I'm hanging out with them, like a couple times a month, going to symphonies and everything. But there was one problem in the whole thing. I hated the symphony. And so my whole goal was to not fall asleep during it, right? That was my biggest fear. I have a board member sleeping in the front row, right? That'd be a disaster. And I stayed for a year, got no business from it. And I realized I wasn't in my home, right? If it was jazz or even more current music, I would have been more interested in it. So I would have then been natural, and it wouldn't have mattered. And so I learned early on that you have to be in the place you belong. It's not just about, oh, these are wealthy people or these are the right people. If you don't fit, you don't fit. So find where you fit, go towards that, be your authentic self. And that's the biggest thing I say all the time. Don't try to fit into someone else's box. Bring yourself to every event, and that will then allow you to become the best version of yourself, and others will see it. And but it's a hard thing, because we all try to fit in, right? And make something out of nothing sometimes. So I kind of want to piggyback on that whole concept. And I know when Annie talks about just your superpowers of the empathy, I think at the end of the day, we always are attracted to those that we have something in common with, right? And that we appreciate. The challenge is, and I think many of us make the mistake of trying to do business with those we don't, right? And those we don't necessarily like or appreciate, respect, believe in, and you're doing it because you might be able to make money, but in the end, it's never the best business you're going to get. And obviously early on in your careers, you may have to take on some sacrifices, but as you go through your arc of your career, you will become more selective, and you'll end up really finding people that are like you and appreciate who you are for who you are. And then that together will allow you the greatest success.
I love it. Okay, final group. Do you want to share? Don't be shy. Who wants to share?
Mac, maybe Nancy was pretty involved in our group.
Okay.
Not
She's nominated.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, we just had a conversation. We talked about just the idea of, for some of us, we really enjoy connecting and meeting others. And for some, we might have a target audience, but for others, we just like the experience and realize that it can be mutually beneficial. Did I capture it, Nick and Kat?
Two Nicks, great.
I think so. We also had a nice kind of round robin of who were interested in meeting maybe and who we might know. And we offered to at least connect on LinkedIn. So Mac, if you can sort of make sure that that's available to folks, at least in our group.
For sure. Definitely. Yeah. Looks like you guys did some networking there. Love it.
Definitely.
Jumped ahead.
Awesome.
The master's at it. Now I know Gail had a question before, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we have 4 minutes left, so maybe we have time for like a couple questions before we hop off. But yeah, Gail asked for advice on how to approach a company that you have no connection with.
I love that concept, and I had said earlier in my career, I was the worst cold call ever. I figured out about a weekend that I would starve to death if I had to count on that, and so I never was a cold caller. But what I would say is put it out into the universe. right? Look through your LinkedIn, see who might be connected to someone at the company. So you have to reverse engineer it, right? It doesn't matter. They might be in the, not to say mailroom's a bad place, but they may be not even in the right area of what you're looking for, but it's who knows who knows who knows who, right? And just trying to find a doorway in, right? And so, which in the end, obviously you can cold call, but that's going to get you typically a poor result. So I think you're always trying to find someone that's connected in some way, but that takes a little effort. And I think just always, when you meet people, when they ask you what you're looking for, this is what I'm looking for. And I can tell you the most amazing thing, you put it out in the universe enough times, it will come back. Because you allow it to, because if you really believe it and you really want it and you think you have a solution, it's out there. But part of it will be use LinkedIn, because that's your best way to see, look who's you might be even connected to, or someone you know is connected to someone that actually is affiliated with the company or in the industry, right? So you find someone in the same industry and you go,
Sorry.
that's okay. So yeah, so that would be my way of approaching that, would be just to reverse engineer it and go work backwards to find people that have a relationship that you may not know directly.
And have you seen people even using like social media, just blasting out onto Facebook or Instagram, like, hey, does anyone know someone
Absolutely.
here?
In your own circle, 100%. That's
Right.
another methodology, because like I said, when you put it into the universe, you'll be amazed whose cousin works there, it'll be some random. And I've seen it where it was this investigator I knew was looking for a very specific, she looked for law firms, and she mentioned a specific law firm, 3 names, it was like blah, 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 blah. That's how it sounded to me, right? It was a 3 random name partnership law firm. And literally someone in the room said, oh, my cousin's wife works at that firm, right? So it was, how would she have ever known that? And how would they have known that unless she asked for it? So I think ask for it is the best way, in multiple ways.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have to wrap up here, but I want to thank everyone for being so, participating, and Mike for sharing your knowledge. So just a couple things here. I will be sharing Mike's email in the follow-up email for those of you who want to connect with him, and connecting those of you who want to connect with each other. This recording will be on Kettle Space's YouTube if you ever want to look back on it. And so tomorrow we have another event, Breakfast with an Investor, 9:30 a.m. For those of you who want to join. We're having Joy Marcus on. She's a lecturer at Princeton University's Center for Innovation and the co-founder of Brilliant Friends, a C-suite women's investing group. So you'll be able to ask her, anything about her business and get advice that way. So that's 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and I'll send out the link for those of you who want to RSVP for that. But thanks for joining, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's great seeing you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
See you guys soon.
Bye.
Thanks,
Take
Mike.
care.
All right.
Thank you, Mike.